Thank you, Aisha, for that warm introduction. Also like to extend my greetings to all the other speakers who make some time to come and join the young people of our continent in such a very, very important event, which pretty much we are here to usher them into the global market now. I'm not only going to say the African market, but the global market, since we are now living in a global value chain. I would also like to congratulate our graduates for achieving such a milestone in their individual lives. For some of them, a huge milestone for their families. For some of them, a huge milestone for their countries. And for all of them, a huge milestone for our continent. I don't want them by any means for them to consider this particular achievement as minor, not by the mere fact that they are not in person to receive their degrees, not because of the world did not gather around to clap and cheer for them as they walk across the stage to receive their degrees, or not because they don't feel like they have been celebrated. Because I want to walk you through something very, very important here today. Yesterday evening, I walked down to the United Nations headquarters just to prepare myself to talk to you today, to look at the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goal 4, and what it emphasizes and what it's looking for. And on the sidewalks at the United Nations headquarters at the entry gate, it says that the SDG 4 stands, one of the things they're trying to achieve is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality basic education and to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And they are trying to achieve this milestone by 2030. Just to kind of remind you guys how successful you all are already in your career path and your individual path. Let me put this thing into perspective for you from an African perspective by giving you the state of education in the African continent. Because I believe all of you, for you to be here today, it meant at some point you completed primary education. For you to be here today, it meant at some point in your life you completed secondary education. Or to even go further, for you to be here today, it meant you completed high school education for you to be in the position that you are today. But let's look at the state of education in Africa. Globally, and you, the students, or graduates rather, you can write some of these numbers down because I have only 7 minutes to talk to you. So I will use more mathematics than literature at this point. 59 million children of primary school age are out of school globally today. Globally. Out of that number, 38 million are resided in Africa. 38 million out of the 59 million children who are out of school today are in the African continent. That is 65% of all children out of school. And to even take it further, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. To even take it further, half of that 38 million that I just talked about will never in their lifetime step a foot in a classroom again, ever. Out of the 38 million, half of that number will never ever step a foot in a classroom again. You are talking about the population of Senegal and Gambia combined as a country that will never step a foot in a classroom. I just want you to understand how privileged position that you are in right now as graduates. And also for the Africa America Institute report, they reported that at any given point, you have about over 149 million people going to school in Africa. But out of that, They also said that only if you accumulate all the secondary schools in Africa, Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, if you combine all the secondary schools in Africa, they can only accommodate about 30% of children who are of age going to school. So when you are in elementary school and you have about, let's say, 149 million African kids that are going to elementary school, at any given year, at any given point, if you combine all the secondary schools in Africa, they can only accommodate 36%. You are talking about 54 million students who are going to be in secondary school at any given point in a year. And that will leave a deficit of about 96 million people who will never make it past primary education. Their education stops at, whether you call it grade 6, whether you call it primary 6, whatever you call it in your country, you have about, at any given point, 96 million children who will never go past primary education. Just to put it into perspective how lucky you are today. Let's take that number further. Let's say the 54 million children will all go ahead and complete senior secondary school at some point. Ignore the fact that they are the school dropouts due to lack of school fees or lack of school materials. Ignore the fact that due to the girl child being removed from school due to early marriage or their education not being prioritized over the boys. Ignore that. Ignore the fact that the students may be removed from school to support their families in their farms, to support their families in the market. Ignore that as well. Let's assume all 54 million at any given point, children in Africa go to junior secondary school. But if you combine all the high schools in the African continent as well, all the high schools, no more than 23 million will be able to enroll into high schools at any given point throughout the African continent. That will also leave another deficit of about 31 million people whose education would only stop at, whether you call it 9th grade or whether you call it Form 1, Form 2, I don't know what you call it in your country. But in Gambia and Sierra Leone, which most of you are from, if I'm correct, their education stops at the 9th grade. Think about that. Now, if you think about in the context of West Africa, the giants of Africa, the economic powers of Africa, Nigeria, at any given point, Nigeria graduates 1.7 million high school graduates at every given point. Every year, Nigeria will give us 1.7 million high school graduates. But if you combine all the tertiary institutions, whether it's the vocational schools, the universities, the colleges, the training schools, they can only accommodate 300,000 students per year in Nigeria. So meaning in Nigeria, at any given point, you have about 1.3, 1.4 million people who are going to complete high school, and that's the farthest they will ever go in their lives. Or if you are from East Africa, you look at the numbers in Kenya, which is also the economic superpower of East Africa, at any given point, Kenya is graduating over 300,000 students from high school, but they can only enroll 50,000 in tertiary institutions. At any point in Kenya, you also have over 250,000 young people half educated, unskilled, untrained, roaming our African continent looking for opportunities. This is the reality of Africa that we live in right now. Now to you, just to make the numbers even more realistic for you. At any given point in Africa, you have over 27 million people who are prepared to enroll in a vocational school, in a university, in a college at some point. But if you combine all the vocational schools in Africa, all the tertiary schools, all the universities, all the colleges, they cannot enroll no more than 5 million people at a time. That will leave a deficit of 23 million young Africans who are willing to get into school that they will not even be able to get to it because of, number one, access, tuition, whatever the case may be. They could be qualified and they will never step a foot into any tertiary education. This is your reality. This is how fortunate you people are. And this is how lucky you are. And for that reason, I would like to acknowledge and thank the ARIA organization for the tremendous work that they are doing to educate and uplift our continent out of poverty, because I solely believe education is the only sort of thing that can help Africa grab itself by its bootstrap to walk out of poverty into abundance. So thank you very much to the ARIA organization. Thank you to your board. Thank you to the leaders, and thank you to the organizers. And also to the students, thank you. As Africans, we have a moral obligation and even a duty to be intelligent as a people. We cannot afford to misbehave. We cannot afford to fail, because when we fail, our failure costs lives. At any given point, as you young graduates are today, in Africa, you have 11 million young people at any point who are ready to walk into the job market. But it takes the average African student graduate 5 years to find a sustainable, gainful employment in the continent. So for that reason, I will tell you, be prepared, young people. You have crossed one hurdle, and you're going to have many more hurdles to cross. But I want to challenge all of you here today. Whatever your degrees is in, whatever discipline you wish to practice in, whatever ambitions and things you have in life, this is going to be my path and message for all young Africans. And when you go home, I want you to share this same message with your friends and your families. Africa is at a stage where we need our young people to step up. And what do I mean by that? We need our young doctors not to just become young, fancy young people in scrubs. We need our young doctors to become healers. We need our engineers not only carry fancy degrees, we need our engineers to become problem solvers. We don't need economists that only learn how to debit and credit. We need economists that's going to become anti-corruption agents. We don't only need farmers we don't need agricultural graduates who's going to hold degrees, who don't know how the differences between a crop and a seed. We need our farmers to become nation feeders. We need our men and women who are going to serve in uniform to become the crusaders and the defenders of our dignity, our human rights, and our pride as Africans. Congratulations to you all, and I wish you the best for the rest of your life. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saikou. Thank you. So inspired message. Thank you for the wonderful speech. Yes, we do know you need people who know what are doing and why they are doing that and how they are doing. Thank you so much.